What's going on, guys, and welcome back. Ghost Spider is here, and we're going to be talking about the new movement meta and everything you need to know about the newest card. Also, we have a special guest in Molt coming on who's played probably some of the most games with a move deck. We're going to learn the intricacies of probably the hardest archetype and how to master move. And then we'll be having a season pass preview talking about the new cards arriving in June. Which should you buy and which one should you skip altogether? We're going to talk about all that today and more on this episode of the Snapchat. And as always, I am joined by Mr. Alex Kocha. Hello, it is move season. It is a glorious day. What's going on, bud?
Oh man, I'm just so excited to have this conversation with you today. I mean, this week has been wild in Marvel Snap. We've got amongst the biggest announcements ever. I mean, it's funny because it was kind of disguised as like, hey, this is just the regular season pass video, but it was filled with like just the craziest updates we've heard from Marvel Snap in some time. Cozy, I'm just gonna say it. It's a great time to be a Marvel Snap player.
Oh my God, he said it. I have to say, bar none, the production value, the little things as an editor that I saw in that trailer was so good. And people might be looking at the subjects right away if you're listening. We're going to talk and break down Conquest next week. That's going to be like our big focus. But right now, guys, we're going to be focusing all on move. That is what this entire episode is going to be about. Both Alex and I talking about move and then looking at the new cards. And then we have a special guest that we're about to have on in Molt, which I'm pretty pumped about as well. Dude, I have to tell you, to brush up not only on a little bit of Miles Morales, I rewatched Into the Spider-Verse. I'm about to go see Across the Spider-Verse. I still am floored on how much of a masterpiece that movie is, dude.
It's an incredible movie. It's an absolutely incredible movie, and I love it because like my son, who's 4 years old, loves watching it to the point that like when he's not watching it, he's putting on like Sunflower, like this like cut of the movie to have like the songs playing in the background on YouTube, and there's like all these different Ghost Spider songs too, and like he loves it. He loves the entire universe.
The balance of the animation, the music, the emotion, the humor, it's all there. It's all there. They did such a good job, and I've heard even better things about the new movie. But you know, we have Diablo 4 out. We've got Legend of Zelda. I've been playing that. A lot of games right now, and so some people might be circling back to Snap as we have a huge season ahead. We have not even a revival, really the start and the gas of an archetype for the first time. And then we have just days, weeks away from our first new game mode outside of battle mode, which this I think is going to count more towards that. Just pure excitement, man, and ecstaticness. Tonight, we have Ghost Spider dropping, and so today we're going to kind of break down everything that you need to know about her as a card. And I want to start with this before we break her down. Should you get her? I'm going to answer that on a video later tonight as well, but I think for movement fans, you definitely should. If you're not a movement fan and you still plan on playing the same deck, I think you're going to be okay without this one. Which I love when they do that.
My initial impressions are that, like, honestly, I feel like the Battle Pass generally is always a good investment. I mean, it's obviously, that means different things for different people, different currency, stuff like that. It's always a difficult question to answer, but it's a great card that has a great tool for a great archetype that needs help. Like, Move has needed help for so long, and I feel like Move won't feel the same without it. That's the key thing. It's kind of like the MODOK effect, where it's like, okay, yeah, you have Hellcow, but like, does it really do what MODOK does for discard? And I feel like Ghost Spider has that effect on Move. I don't foresee there being many Move decks that are meta relevant without Ghost Spider in it. And honestly, I know there's going to be people out there say, Alex, I don't play Move. It's too complicated, the math. Well, you know what? Just like Into the Spider-Verse, Cozy, Move is a leap of faith. You just gotta try it, experiment with it, experience it, and just get some games in. Give up the first 100 games. Don't worry about your rank. This is a great archetype that's going to get a lot stronger with Ghost Spider. So for me, I think it's a buy.
Yeah, so it's funny. I like the comparison of MODOK. I think that's the best one. The competitive discard decks have MODOK, the other ones don't, and it's going to be the same for Move. I hate sitting here and saying, yeah, get every single season pass card. Yeah, pretty much. I think Nimrod was the only one that I was like, guys, you can sleep well at night if you do skip it. If you don't play Move, again, I still think you can be okay with that. But if you ever plan on playing it, then this is the card to get. I will say, if you haven't played a lot of Move, if you're a type of Marvel Snap player that plays like at brief breaks of work, or like you don't have all the concentration there, don't play Move. It's a lot going on, but at the same time, I think Ghost Spider simplifies Move. That's the biggest thing. Usually with Move, you had to do the perfect mathematician plays, but Ghost Spider is going to make 20, 30 plus combos new possible because of her arrival, and some other cards that we'll talk about here in a second are going to go through the roof just because of Ghost Spider's existence.
I think that Ghost Spider gives you not only viable turn 6 plays with Spider-Man 2099, which we're going to be talking about shortly, but it also provides you the chance of like, that card should not be on the left, should it? Or, I lost that location. It allows you to correct course to then set up a better Heimdall play later on, for instance. So I think that it's like a way higher skill cap card than we're giving the initial credit for.
And I think it's more flexible than MODOK. MODOK is discard is MODOK. She's moved, but now with 2099 coming out, which we'll talk about later in the episode, but also cheeky little things that you can do with her. You can utilize, let's say, a tech card, Shang-Chi something to the ground, and then you need that power. You already took care of the presence. You can use Ghost Spider for that. So I think that's where the versatility is going to come in. And I'm excited about the season as a whole. And with that, we're going to go ahead and welcome in the Move Master himself. We're going to break down everything you could possibly want to know about Move. The cards, the combos, locations. This is probably one of my favorite episodes we're going to have because of a special guest. And I'm going to have this start to kick off, having these experts come in their craft and snap. I think it's an awesome thing to do, Alex. Let's welcome in Molt. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Really, really excited for this season. I'm excited for people to finally give Move a chance, I feel like it's been slept on, and I'm excited for people to see what's possible.
Yeah, it's finally your time. It's people's time to shine, because I feel like there's definitely like that pocket crowd that plays Move, and they're about to get rewarded from not only playing it in ladder, but conquest by far.
Yeah, and the new cards are definitely going to add a lot of versatility to it. I think one of the things that's been annoying about Move is the fact that for the most part, people think you can only move left. And so with Ghost Spider and just some of the new things, I think that it's going to make it a little bit more versatile than it was before.
Yeah, for sure.
Considering Move has gotten nothing for like months,
Since Miles,
I think we're in a great spot for Move to get a little bit of love here. And I mean, Spider-Ham's still kind of cool. I'm seeing some reception that Spider-Ham might actually be one of the most infuriating cards ever designed. People are like calling this out as maybe one of the most irritating cards of all time.
I like what people are saying. He's kind of like the leech. So it's not gonna be good against certain cards like Infinite, but then other cards, it's gonna be extremely annoying, and it's gonna just frustrate people so much.
I want to kind of bring you in and get your take before we go to Mastering Move on the newest Season Pass card, and your general thoughts and how you think she is going to change up Move from your experience.
Yeah, so she's going to be very similar to the way that Iron Fist works and Doctor Strange work, just kind of retroactively. So Iron Fist moves the next card, she's going to move the last card. So I think it's going to be very easy for people to pick up how Ghost Spider is going to work and fit into the deck. If you know how to use Iron Fist well, you're going to know how to use Ghost Spider well. Same with Doctor Strange. Obviously, Doctor Strange is specific on the power level, but being able to move things to the right is huge, because right now the only opportunity that you have to do that is with Cloak, which is obviously super telegraphed, and honestly sometimes a benefit to your opponent, because if they've locked up in a location, or like, I don't know, Central Park came out or something along those lines, Cloak can end up helping your opponent. And so the only way in the past that you were able to move to the right was with those cards. Now with Ghost Spider, you're going to be able to gain some more movement and lockdown, because I've always said this, I feel like Move and kind of Cerebro are the two archetypes that are affected most by locations in the game. If the middle lane is messed up for Move, it's like, well, what the heck am I supposed to do? Because for the most part, you're moving to the left. Now you have that ability to work around Fisk Tower, to work around things like that. And so I think that it's going to open it up a lot and make it a little bit more viable when you do get bad locations.
Yeah, so we talked about some of the combos earlier that I see working with Ghost, but the thing that I think is kind of being slept on, not only what you just said there, because that is very true, the right side aspect is massive, especially for that like PowerPoint buildup, but also having her at such a cheap cost is going to give you so much more flexibility. I mean, I know we're going to talk about it here, but like, you're a fan of not Heimdalling all the time on turn 6.
Oh, yeah.
And she kind of opens that path up. I play Arrow obviously a lot. I love Arrow as a card. But what I think is kind of cool is like playing Arrow on 5, and then you play Ghost Spider on 6. So you move their card on 5, and now you have Ghost Spider as not just a move card, but also as this utility to pull that arrow back to where you need that power anyway, you know?
Yeah, when Arrow was at her prime, where she would move everything, that was a thing that I would do with Heimdall. You play Arrow, you move everything, and then it's like, cool, you're winning that location, but now I'm winning these. Now you can get that same effect, but for only the cost of 2. So you still have 4 to work with, whether that's playing a Juggernaut or something along those lines. You have that accessibility to move that power to a different location and then control another one. So there's lots of different doors that are opened up with Ghost Spider for sure.
One thing that I've noticed is that like a lot of people like really identify Heimdall as like the closing turn 6 finisher where like
Right.
I understand that. But one of my favorite things to do, which is like going to be so fun this season, is going to be to actually play Iron Fist on turn 5 as the last card. And then you get to actually Iron Fist your Heimdall over to like completely push your entire board state over to the left. But I love what Molt's saying with the idea of like, you know what, like you don't have to just commit left, right? Before you had, you know, the Doctor Strange to go to the right, you have the Cloak to go to the right. But now with Ghost Spider, like even if you've lost a location, like your opponent can't really like fully commit to a specific lane, thinking like, okay, he can actually move a card here now. Like it's going to provide an opportunity to kind of really throw like these kind of these curveballs to your opponent that like really makes it really unpredictable.
Yeah, I feel like with that too, because when you're playing move, right? Like it's, I played a lot of move, guys, lately. Like I've prepped up for the season up, and from what I've gathered is that I either try to stay under the radar that I'm playing move, because you want them to build up the left lane. You want them to believe that they can win the left lane, because that's going to be your best. But now we're gonna have this option of kind of you're not subject just to the left. It's still going to be the strongest probably, but dude, that's game changing, I think.
Oh yeah, that's why I love like hybrid move decks, like playing Angela, playing Kitty Pryde in a move deck. By turn 3, people are kind of already committed in their mind of like, okay, I'm probably facing a bounce deck. And then they're not prepared for what you do after that. So yeah, being able to hide your Kraven, being able to hide your Iron Fist, being able to hide the fact that you're going to be moving is super important, especially if you see those move locations come out that are going to benefit you. You want to sleep on that for as long as you can until you can take advantage of it and catch your opponent off guard for sure.
So with like mastering move, I think what I want to do with this kind of subject is we're going to talk about not only just like the basics of move, but I want to talk about some of the cards that I think are more confusing. Again, after playing a good amount of it, there are some cards that I feel like have so much decisions that you can make with them. And they can be complicated. And honest to God, I think Kraven is actually one of those cards. People don't understand how to best utilize Kraven. So I want to start there, and then we can kind of go to different paths.
Kraven is an interesting one. Kraven would be towards my bottom tier of move cards because, yes, it does gain power for you, obviously. But also, a lot of times it can limit you. You play it on a location early because maybe you don't draw into other things, and you're like, all right, great. I haven't drawn into my Iron Fist or anything like that. So typically the way that I play Kraven is I try and hide it until I play Cloak. I don't play it on the same turn on Cloak. So if possible, turn 4, I'll play Cloak and Dagger on different locations, especially if I have Angela down. I'll play Dagger on top of Angela and then Cloak on a different location. And then if I have priority, I'll play my Kraven the next turn, even though I could have played it the previous turn, so that potentially my opponent might move 1 or 2 cards. And obviously that does still kind of apply to Dagger because they know if I move a card here, Dagger's going to get a little bit more buff, whatever it is. But Kraven for me is one of those cards that you don't really rely on. It's just there to play if you have it, and then it can be defensive for if you end up playing Juggernaut, which is my favorite move card, like hands down, incredibly powerful card. And Kraven, if you have it down on a location and you play Juggernaut, then that's like double defense. So defensively, you're moving the cards, but then you're also buffing Kraven. So even though they're moving power to that location, you don't have to worry about it. So a lot of times I think Kraven is more defensive than it is offensive in that sense.
Where I think Kraven's probably going to start getting a lot more play, Molt, is with Silk. And we'll talk about Silk more later, but I think Silk might be one of the biggest things for Kraven to automatically have the card as one of the better 2-cost cards in the game, if not one of the best. I mean, I think Silk has the potential to be one of the better 2-cost cards in the game, and Kraven then amplifies even further because you're having a card that can it's like a vision, kind of, you know?
Right. Yeah, I feel like, I mean, the only benefit that she gives to move decks is the buff on Kraven. You know, because it's the only card that is buffed by other cards moving or whatever. So like you play that Kraven down, you play Silk. Silk's going to be interesting, man. Like I think there are going to be times where Silk can be frustrating and fill in locations, but I think probably 70-80% of the time, she's going to end up doing some pretty freaking crazy stuff, especially in regards to Craven.
Morales will like Silk as well, because like having Morales always sitting perpetually at one cost is going to be really beneficial as well. But yeah, like Silk being able to slide into like a Sanctorum, by the way, and just like not even have to worry about, hey, no one can even play there now. You just won that location. Very nice, right? I think that's going to be a huge benefit, because like a move wants to have things moving, and Silk's going to do exactly that.
Now, I want to talk about other cards as well that are a bit confusing, but I think one of the things that people might have a lot of questions with, and you know what? I built my own move decks too. I think this is one of the most customizable decks that you can build to yourself, per se. There's really 3 cards that people look at. Who should I boost the most? And these are obviously the cards that are going to get the most out of getting moved to different locations. Obviously, you've got now Human Torch, which I think is more sexy with Ghost coming out. You have Multiple Man, and then you have Vulture. Those are like the main ones, right? So I want to know from you, which ones do you find the most reliable? I have my answer, but I definitely want to hear yours. And what do you think moving forward, too?
My answer is the one that you didn't say, and that's Dagger.
Oh, of course, Dagger, yeah.
I think that Iron Fist Dagger is one of the most slept on combos in the game. I have thrown Iron Fist Dagger into so many of my Sarah decks because for 3 energy final turn, you can get 12 power. Like, incredible, because at the end of the game, people are committed. You kind of know where things are going, and so you can play Dagger in that regard as kind of a sneaky thing at the end. The only thing about Dagger is not really effective until probably turn 4, because for the most part, people aren't committing to locations and all that kind of stuff. Now, yeah, you can play Iron Fist Dagger and then move it with Cloak and things like that, but ultimately, Dagger is probably my favorite of the power move cards, as I call them, the ones that gain power from moving. I think that Human Torch is the most fun, but you have to play Bounce, which is extremely reliant on drawing into Beast and Falcon to really like make Human Torch freaking ridiculous, to make it worth it. You can get Human Torch up to, I don't know what, probably 8 fairly easily, which a 1/8 is incredibly good. But from a reliance standpoint, I would say I rely more on Vulture and Dagger than I do on Multiple Man or Human Torch. Now, if I'm playing Multiple Man, then I'm probably playing Human Torch, because I'm also playing Hulkbuster. Yes. Because Hulkbuster works directly with those two, just like it does with Deadpool and Destroy decks. And so if you're going to go that route of bringing Hulkbuster in your deck, then you want to have Human Torch and you want to have Multiple Man. So it's interesting because, like you were saying, there's lots of different decks you can build with move. You can go the Human Torch Multiple Man route, or you can go the Dagger Vulture route and then have more control cards and like use those as kind of your power cards towards the end of the game.
Picking it back up and having much more knowledge about the game than when I first was playing in beta with move, the 2 things I noticed is like, and you just alluded to that, is there is the kind of clogging move deck and there's the more kind of flexible. And I think that's what you were saying, where Multiple Man, if you go all in on Multiple Man, don't get me wrong, my God, so deceptive how strong this guy can be. And with Ghost Spider now, you will probably dependently have potentially 7s across a lot of lanes, right?
If you get Hulkbuster on it.
If you get Hulkbuster, and if you don't get location luck. So he's kind of the more greedy-ish option in some ways. And why I like what you just alluded to, why I like Dagger, is you're able to move her multiple times. You don't have to worry about clogging too much. That's one more element you have to think about while playing move. With Human Torch, what I learned, and I try, it's hard not to, because anything, I don't know about you guys, when I play Deadpool, right, like, I just want my Deadpool to be like 24 power, like, even
if you lose.
Yeah, it's like a bust if I didn't. And what I found with Human Torch is I was doing the same, and I have to remember he's a 1 cost, and if I even move him to a 1/4, he's done his job. And so I was actually starting to like Torch just as a play on 1, because you don't want to play anything else on 1 typically, right, anyway. And so if you get the 1/4, great. If you get a 1/8, it's like
100%. It's all about the whole saying of putting all your eggs in one basket with move, because not only do you have to be careful with Human Torch, you also have to be careful of putting too much power on one location. A lot of times people that are newer to move are like, I have to move this card to give it power. But then at the end, if you end up playing Heimdall or something else like that, you're winning one location by 30 power and you end up losing, when it's like, okay, I need to like restrain a little bit here. Just move my Vulture, leave my Dagger right here, and then I'll play Heimdall next turn, because I can't commit too much to one location, which I think is one of the biggest things that people are going to kind of fall into the trap of as they enter into move, is moving everything when you don't really need to.
It's one of the fascinating things about the new cards as well. Like even with Ghost Spider, like if you play something like a Vulture on turn 5 and it's just sitting there and it's like, that's an unassuming Vulture. I mean,
Right.
Heimdall gives it 5 to the left. Ghost Spider gives it 5 to the right. I mean, it becomes much less predictable, and I think that's
Right.
what's held kind of move back, because like although it's like a generally unpredictable archetype, at the same time it's like the moving left, you can kind of predict it in such an easy fashion, and now that all changes, and the ability, we're almost making a meme of it, but the ability to go right, in particular with these cards like Human Torch and even Dagger. I got Molt. When you said Dagger, my heart just sang, because I feel like this is a card that nobody talks about. I'm so glad you're here to talk about it.
I've gotten daggers upwards of 40 power before. Like, absolutely incredible power potential there, especially during the bounce season where people were playing things, Sarah decks, all of that kind of stuff. And so that's what's so cool about the different move cards, is they all can work within certain realms of the meta. If people are putting down a lot of cards, then Dagger's going to be great. If people aren't putting down a lot of cards, then that's when you want to bring that Vulture in to gain that guaranteed +5, when sometimes Dagger's only going to get +2 when she moves.
She's making a lot of turns unawkward again. Like, at least in what I just played, I found turn 3 and 5 to both be a little bit awkward because of the cards I had. And now, dude, even playing Cloak and then Vulture on 5, and then you can start 6 with Spider, and then you have Vulture to whip over.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could even literally Ghost Spider into a Doctor Strange onto the left side. So you can Ghost Spider to the right, Doctor Strange to the left, and Vulture's going ping pong and just like gaining tons of actual power and landing exactly where you want. Like, it has this element of control, which is pretty wild for a move list.
Yeah, I mean, my preference for final turn is always Juggernaut Doctor Strange. I think that it is an incredibly strong final turn play for move decks. And now if I don't draw into Doctor Strange, but I'm able to draw into Ghost Spider after, say, playing Iron Fist and Vulture, then final turn being able to play Ghost Spider and then Juggernaut is going to be huge. It's going to open up so many different windows there to be able to have that access and everything. But like, people always expect you, they don't always expect you, but most of the time they expect you to play that Heimdall final turn. But again, like what you said, Cozy, the 2/4 on Cloak is nasty. When Lizard got slapped across the face in the last balance changes, in my Sarah deck, I took him out and I just threw Cloak in. I was like, final turn 2/4 or 1/4 if I'm playing Sarah, yes please.
Yeah.
Like, with absolutely no downside, and maybe even playing in some other things. So yeah, like, there's lots of power potential with some of the cards in the game or within move that allow you to play them just on top of Angela or something like that to help with that clunkiness of move, because some of those turns are kind of weird at times, which is why I like playing the hybrid ones with Angela and Kitty Pryde and being like, okay, if I can't do something, I'm going to play Kitty and I'm going to play Dagger. And then next turn, I'm going to play Cloak and I'm going to play Kitty and I'm going to play Iron Fist or something like that.
Yeah, move always traditionally had a really awkward curve. Like, the curving was really weird. Like, you know, you had multiple man into Hulkbuster, but then what do you do? Like, what do you do on 4? It felt like this gap where it's like, I don't have anything to do here. It's just, I'm wasting energy if I Doctor Strange or if I just drop my, like, it never really made sense. So I love that you're saying, like, use Angela and Kitty to just to like make it curve better and kind of add value wherever you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like Silver Surfer in that regard a bit. But yeah, I mean, again, the fact that you could do Iron Fist, Vulture, move it over, Ghost Spider last turn, whip it to another lane. Or even like Torch, Hulkbuster, and Hulkbuster counts as your last card, and then you whip it again, and that's 12 power on your Torch. Like, there's so many. I think there's gonna be a lot more cheeky wins. And then that makes Heimdall all the better, because then you give that a week, right? And people are going to start having to like think about all this stuff when you just do the Heimdall and you win now, you know? Like,
dude, that whole leader experience where everyone just thought everyone was playing leader, and it's like, well, they're going to play leader final turn, and then they didn't. And it's like, oh no, I don't know what to think anymore.
yeah, without question. And Alex, I thought before going to a subject I wanted to talk about with Move, Alex, you said it well too. Like, you know what's funny? Like Zabu's my most played card. I can tell you that with confidence. And what do? Every time I build a deck, I go, I select the archetype, I go to 4, and I got to Move, and I was like, oh my god, there's nothing. Like, this is such an empty, and Spider-Man 2099 is going to add to this. But like, that's why it's a bit awkward. So I want to kind of bring two more discussions in this. Number one, You talked about Juggernaut, right? And I want to go there for a second before we go into locations. Juggernaut is a card that people don't think of as a move card. It says move. It's definitely not a move card per se. So I want to talk about cards that aren't move cards that can fit into move decks. And
Cyclops.
Let's move, X-Men. Tell the people why they're sleeping on Juggernaut. And I love this, man. You're speaking to the Juggernaut choir here.
Yeah. So Juggernaut, man, it's incredible not only because of its flexibility, because if we look at move, we see lots of 3-cost cards. And one of the more important ones on that final turn to go along with Juggernaut is that Doctor Strange. So you're able to play 2 3-drops guaranteed final turn, unless somebody Icemans one of them or you get Icebox or something like that. But Juggernaut, if you're playing well and you see it in your hand, you can start to read the board. And the biggest thing is you want to make sure that there's space for Juggernaut to move cards to. So a lot of times that means you might not want to put power in a certain location because then people will try and defend it, and then that location fills up and Jug isn't able to move things there. So Juggernaut's incredibly good at being able to move those cards, but you have to make sure that there's room for it to move to, and then you have to be able to predict with that final turn of Doctor Strange pulling things to that other location. But Juggernaut is just slept on, man. People don't expect it. Like, they almost always expect it a lot of times after Storm, but typically that's in, control decks and things like that. But in move decks, that final turn, it just fits so well with the Doctor Strange play, which is why I think that that's my go-to final turn play for move is Doctor Strange Juggernaut, like 90% of the time if I have it in my hand.
Awesome. Okay, cool to hear. Alex?
Card that I think kind of gets slept on. It's not really considered a move card for whatever reason. I'm going to say is Vision. We're going to go with Vision for a sec because one of the ways that I've used Vision in the past, and Cozy, I know you love the mind games of it. It's one of the ultimate mind game cards in Marvel Snap. And when we're talking about move and how things can be somewhat unpredictable, especially with multiple man. Like, listen, I love multiple man, but when multiple man starts bouncing all over the place, I got to tell you, I'm like, I ain't doing the math. I'm not doing the math here. I'm just letting it happen. And I feel like Vision gives me some sort of agency over how the cards will actually end up landing at the end of the day, which I think can be super valuable and can be super unpredictable for your opponent.
I kind of wish he was an 8 power. 7's fine because of Captain Marvel. You have to be careful, but 7 can feel weak too with just like the 22 Hulks going around now,
That's one of the reasons why I play Angela in these decks is because really it kind of turns Vision into a 5/9. It's like, okay, I'm going to play this on Angela and then move it, be able to do things at that location again. So you're able to generate that power with the one card of Vision, giving you extra power there and then being able to move it or not.
The number one card, fellas, that oh man, Alex, you're going to be happy to hear this. The number one card that I found that I love with move. It made so much sense. With Ghost, I think it's going to be an option to have in the deck. And it kind of leads me to 2 cards in one here. But I got to say, guys, Wave has made so much sense in a move deck. Because of her rework, playing Wave now on 5, when you don't have another option, so you can essentially play Wave with a dagger, okay? So you play Wave and dagger. Guys, this is how I got my win percentage. People just don't know what to do. There's Kitty decks everywhere. There's Sarah decks everywhere. But I was playing Wave, dagger, right lane. And then... yeah, I'm playing Heimdall. Like, I'm playing Heimdall, but what are you going to do? You have one thing to change, and oftentimes, what if I don't play Heimdall, right? And what if they anticipate that? Wave, with her change, has felt like such a predictable way now to play move, because the worst part about move is Heimdall being the one thing you can do. And I feel like now you put the opponent on your level. Guys, this, to me, felt like the game changer, as of recently, too.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. And in relationship with Cloak on turn 5 as well, playing Wave and Cloak, you're going to gain something from moving cards. Your opponent is not, if they're not playing that. So say you have Dagger, Human Torch, Vulture down, whatever. You play that Wave, you play that Cloak. You're able to do more than just play Heimdall. You're able to move cards, gaining power, which the only way your opponent can do that is by playing cards. You gain power by moving, and then you play that Heimdall, and I feel like you're going to get a lot of retreats on turn 5 when you play that.
I was doing it just to counter the kit. I was getting sick of the bounce decks I was losing to. I was losing to Hitmonkey Kitty, even with my move power. And I was like, okay, there's got to be. I was like, well, I can maybe just wave them. And it ended up making a lot of sense. And with that, I wanted y'all's opinion here. now that Ghost Spider's another 2 cost, and we have like Vulture as a 3 cost, we have Doctor Strange, we have Dagger, you don't have a lot of 1 cost. Will we see Move Miracle be a thing?
We could. I mean, I've like I said, I've played Sarah decks, but I would only throw in Iron Fist. I would throw an Iron Fist, Dagger, and Cloak into Miracle decks, because typically, what do you have in Sarah decks? You've got Angela. Cloak works incredibly well with Angela, even if you're not playing your move deck. So I think throwing Sarah in there and being able to play that Iron Fist, play that Dagger, and then move them with Cloak and things like that. I think it'll be an option. I think it's going to be more viable now, having another 2-drop that guarantees you being able to move things in Ghost Spider.
So what about like you're going to have Kraven, you're going to have Silk both at 1 cost, right? So there's a little bit of craziness, but then having Dagger at 1, you have Ghost Spider at 1, you have Strange at 2, and you have Vulture at 2. So that's like, and Juggernaut if you wanted to go like the bonkers route with that too.
Throw them in there.
And the key thing about Silk too is that you can play it down in an order where you can reliably try and knock Silk around a little bit, but it actually isn't reliable because you can't really control where Silk ends up, right? You can almost take a couple gambles by, okay, well, you drop the second card on top of Silk, it's going to knock into one of these 2, and then you can spread your power to make sure it at least knocks again at some point. So you could have Silk kind of bouncing back and forth, but like, yeah, Kraven benefits from that, but who else really?
I mean, you could throw Hitmonkey in there even. And Hitmonkey would be a what? An 8 at the end of that? Like, people might be expecting the Hitmonkey and not expecting the move unless you've showed those cards earlier on. But I mean, for the people that love bounce move, which there's a very small group of people who love it. I've seen some people on Twitter with fully inked out bounce move decks. Yeah. They're friggin' sick. And it's like, yeah, that deck is super hard to pilot, but throwing that in with that Sarah deck and then having Hitmonkey in there too, and you have a couple of zeros that can get you big power, like a 0-cost Iron Fist with no, it wouldn't be a 0 Dagger at that point. But with Beast, if you pull it back with Beast, I definitely think we'll see it though. I think that people are going to start, once they play move, I think this is the way it's going to go. They're going to play move, they're going to see the potential power of things like I did, and then they're going to throw it into other decks. They're going to be like, wait a second, Iron Fist Dagger is freaking ridiculous for final turn. And with Sarah, that could be a 2/12. That's nuts. And then we're going to start seeing move kind of infiltrate into other decks, like you said, with the Miracle and everything.
And we want that. We want people to do this because A, it's going to help us find better decks, but B, good old Papa Heimdall, it gets more of an excuse to get like the unexpected play, which is, I can't believe we're saying that.
This conversation just brought 2 major things to my focus, okay? Number one, I think that we're like trying so hard to min-max, where at the same time, like Vulture, if Vulture moves once, it's a 3/8. Maximus is a 3/7 with a massive downside. If Vulture moves once, it's done its job, right? And I think Molt, you talked about that before. Like if you have Human Torch getting up to like 1/8 and higher, it's like, well, now you're putting your chickens in one basket, and so or eggs in one basket, one might say. And so like you're taking a risk, right? The other thing that came to my mind during this conversation is when these cards all release, the global win percentage of these cards is going to be like so bad, because we have to legit relearn how to play move. Guys, the last 10 minutes of our conversation has been like mentally exhausting because move is so complicated. And if you're not practicing, if you're just picking up the cards, you're like, I'm just going to Ghost Spider and I'm going to win games. You are wrong, my friend. You got to put in some time before you're going to get that win rate.
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Mastering move, you leave here more confused than when you started. Yeah, that's it. I think that's what the name of the podcast is going to be. Listen, here's the thing. I really feel like Wave is going to be important into move decks because of the countering aspect it has. I'm going to stand by that. I feel really good about that.
My question to you is, how do you plan to counter move decks, or what is it that you see that counters move decks that like gets you so infuriated because it completely shuts you down? Because people are going to want to know how to counter move decks.
Obviously, I would say the biggest way that people counter move is going to be with Professor X. Like that's a fairly obvious one. Throw it in the middle. If you want to counter it, this is a deck that I've been playing a lot recently, is Psylocke on turn 3, Professor X on turn 4. If you can get that down, you're going to cause significant problems to people being able to play move. Now, with Ghost Spider, there is a little bit more of a workaround because you can play Ghost Spider, Cloak, and Doctor Strange to work around it, but you've like vastly limited their ability to do what the deck is designed to do, and that is move. And honestly, I feel like Doctor Strange is probably the counter to the deck. Like you said, Wave Cozy could be one, but if at that point, if people have already played things, then Heimdall final turn if you draw into it. But ultimately, I feel like Professor X is the best. Storm isn't going to do anything. Storm is going to hurt you because I can get into that location when you can't. And so I think we're going to see a even bigger rise of Professor X. We already saw it recently with the Nebula Guardians of the Galaxy decks, but I think that Professor X is going to kind of even continue to push its way up for people that want to counter it.
I'm glad you said lockdown. Lockdown was what I was going to say, and it's what I'm nervous about. If I'm being honest, guys, yeah, Pro X in the middle. Have a good one.
Bring Jeff if you've got him.
Yes. Yeah. That's all. Alex plays.
I've been talking about Jeff
Snap.
for weeks.
Jeff Snap over there. Yeah.
Yeah, but thinking ahead, I think this is the deck that requires the most thought ahead. Like you are turn 1, you are already thinking to turn 6 with your hands, and you are trying to look at the locations as they're revealed and try and do that. You can't get too stressed out. There's a lot of math that needs to be done. You will run your timer down a lot of times as you're trying to do this. And then order is everything, especially if you're playing Doctor Strange. If you want to move a specific card, you want to play Doctor Strange first and then move your other card. So let's say that you want to move your highest cost card, and currently it's a Vulture at 8, and you have Dagger that you can move to a location with Cloak. You want to play Doctor Strange first because that will move that Vulture, and then you can move your Dagger. Otherwise, you move your Dagger and then you move your Dagger. So order is everything when it comes to playing Doctor Strange and all that kind of stuff around the board, moving and all that. It's going to take a lot of experimenting. It's going to be fun. Like, kind of brace for it. It's going to be hard for a little bit, but the reward is really, really good for people that I've talked to about it.
Do you only plan on playing? I mean, Molt, you have like you've been waiting for this. Yeah, you gonna just play move?
I have thousands of move games under my belt, like without a question.
Conquest, man, I seriously think it's gonna be so good for Conquest because it is built to beat. You can build it to beat just about any deck. And that's where like those 5 wins in a row, man. That's gonna be move is gonna be fantastic.
Something like Kang won't even matter against move because like there's so many options for Conquest. Like you could play the same person like in multiple stages of No, you're not gonna do that. Like you're gonna be playing the same person for that 10 HP, right? For those 10 cubes. And like the way a move game plays out is so unique every time that like every game is different, and the person cannot necessarily tech against it unless they've teched the Psylocke and Professor X that you just bestowed upon us. But realistically, in just a standard game plan, someone who's piloting a move deck that's been practicing, they can hit you right, they can hit you left. They got so many different options.
Yeah, like my deck that I'm kind of known for right now is the stop and move deck, which has Shang-Chi, Cosmo, Angela, all that kind of stuff in it. I've run into Kangs before, and I just changed my play and still win. It's like, oh, I was planning on playing Doctor Strange Juggernaut. Now I'll just play Heimdall. Oh, now I'll just play Kitty Pryde and Shang-Chi. Now I'll just play, there's so many different options final turn that people limit themselves to when it comes to building move. And so I think it's going to be cool to see what people can come up with.
Well, and then finding out your cards, man, in Conquest, it is sweaty, guys, but the best, you're going to have to write down your opponent's deck consistently. You're going to have to keep track of that. Then finding out your cards, okay. When you find out their cards and you find out they don't have a Shang-Chi and you can just go balls to the wall, or Killmonger, you might as well just ship it if you have Human Torch and they don't have Killmonger. Like, that's a win. And that's a card you probably just throw in because of that, right? And so, I think Conquest, man, in the order of cards. The last thing I want to talk about is, and I probably have said that, like 9 times now, but the locations. And not just locations and how they can affect move, but also what I think a lot of people struggle with. Alex, I don't know if you're the same here.
I struggle with everything.
is where to play your cards to not shoot yourself in the foot. Because obviously, as of now, it's like right middle, move it all to the left. Where do you foresee where to be playing your cards turns 1 through 5?
Like you just said, right middle is what people typically think about when they're playing move decks. For me, for the most part, I start on the left, hoping that I draw into Cloak or Doctor Strange. So like ideally you go left to right to middle to left if you end up playing Heimdall. So Iron Fist, Dagger over to the left location, and then Doctor Strange to the right location, then Cloak to the middle, and then able to play Doctor Strange. So you have to be able to use the entire board to play move to its like deepest, most effective way. But you can also bring certain cards. Like a lot of times people will bring Storm into their move decks, which is great because not only can it get rid of Fisk Tower, can it get rid of other locations that just cause you issues with move. It's great. You can gain access to it. Other people can't. And so thankfully, if you do decide to bring Storm, you can kind of mitigate that whole where do I play type thing. It's like, okay, these locations are kind of trash. I'm going to play Storm. I know I'm going to end up winning that location unless they have Doctor Doom and I don't account for it or something like that. But ultimately, if you have Cloak in hand, you want to start on the left side, move your way to the right, move your way to the middle, leave some power on the right if you're going to play Heimdall, and then move it all. But typically, you're trying to just use the whole board if possible. If you just have those locations that like don't affect you at all.
A lot of people, yes, complain that there's locations that hurt move. But you have to remember, man, playing Doctor Strange in a Death's Domain, it's like, hello, or, even bigger than that, which I don't think people, I won the other day with this, and it's important not to do it early. You want to save it because people's brains just fart here. I think it's Quantum Realm, where it sets base power cards to 2, pushing cards into where everything has to be 2 power, and it's like 6 power is going to win that lane, and then 1 vulture move, GG. It's... Yeah. There are a lot of locations that can help alter death. I mean, not more that can hurt, but there are some that help. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's that whole mindset of we pay attention to negative things more than we do positive things a lot of times. Like the comment section on YouTube. 99 people can say something nice and one person can kind of hit a chord in you. And that's the same sort of thing with this, to where you have 2 games in a row where you have either Fisk Tower and something else, and you're just like, this sucks, but then you don't even acknowledge when you get Kunlun or the other one that just helps you with move stuff, and you're just like, yay, great. It's like, well, I mean, that was just as much RNG as the thing that was negative for you. So yeah, there are a lot that benefit you not only by locking out your opponent, but benefiting you by moving as well.
Yeah, it's funny because when you're really banking on specific types of locations, they never show up. When you're playing a specific deck like Cerebro, it's like, oh, it's negative zone again. Sweet. It's like every single game. Oh, look, it's Monster Island or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called. It just pisses me off so much. Right. I'm trying to erase it from my memory. And it's like that's why I can't touch Cerebro. I just can't do it anymore. Cerebro is literal emotional damage every time I touch it. So I'm glad we're talking about move today.
I suppose we'll take you into at least the first card for our season pass preview, our next topic, because we have the one that is dedicated towards move. And that is Spider-Man 2099. Miguel is also what he is known by. Sick character. I have him on the thumbnail, guys. This is going to bring a whole new ball game. My God, if they have Devil Dinosaur in one lane by itself. Okay, no problem. This will be a card that is a 4-cost. Zabu's still not going to be worth it. But it is a 4-cost.
My initial thoughts is that it can take out Dracula. That was one thing I was thinking about. There's these cards that have felt untouchable for so long.
Oh my God.
That this card can legitimately be like, nope, boom. And Dracula's often sitting by itself.
Oh my God.
That's huge. I did not think about that. That's massive.
My whole arrow thing was for the where you arrow a card with Dracula and you can pull it to you mess up discard. But oh my, that is because it's Storm Dracula or it is just Dracula by itself. That is massive, dude.
I mean, naturally, of course, you have the Ghost Spider, which I think this is a little more obvious than it has to be. But if you can consider what you can do with Ghost Spider on turn 6, if they have a solo card in a lane, you basically guarantee that it just dies. You're able to play, as a 4-drop. You play the 2099, you Ghost Spider into a lane. I do think that the RNG side of it is a little interesting because you do have you can't target a specific card. You can target a specific lane. I did in a video I made a comparison between this being the move version of what Gambit does for discard, but Gambit cannot target a location, whereas 2099 can. But if a location has multiple cards in it, then in my opinion, it does make earlier turns matter again, because when you have 1-drops on the board, you're kind of low-key protecting your larger cards from 2099, aren't you? And actually, Molt prior, we were all talking about how Sarah could be used in potentially in move decks. And I think that 2099 has a unique place there, because if you have Sarah turn 5, it's now a 3-cost card. Ghost Spider becomes a 1. You have additional energy to play something else and perhaps do an even bigger combo. So maybe that turn 6 combo where you're going something crazy with 2099 and Ghost Spider kind of makes a little more sense. Maybe Sarah makes more sense with this kind of card. but I do think it's still a little less reliable with like the inability to actually target specific cards. But then again, if you could, it'd just be so broken. It'd just be absolutely tilting.
When I think of 2099, I think that most people will probably play it outside of a 90% move deck or whatever. Like, I think that we'll see it within move, but I think you're going to get a lot of people coming up with those combos with the Iron Fist, with the Ghost Spider, with the Sarah decks, because move in itself is going to be a lot for people to undertake, like learning. Like, one thing that you always see in games like this is if a new card comes out, people say, how can I fit that in the deck that I'm currently good at? It's like, I don't want to learn this whole thing if I can make it fit within here. And so if you have those people who maybe are playing Electro decks and decide to throw Heimdall into it, which I've done, which is hilarious because nobody's ever expecting it. Like, you're going to see people be like, okay, how can I move this extremely strong card that has the most health of something that also destroys? Like, obviously, Negasonic goes away. Shang-Chi is a 4/3. So it's like, not only are you getting rid of something, you also have your power of 4/6. So really, whatever it gets rid of, it could be a 4/15, a 4/20 if it gets rid of something, whatever. But I think we're going to see it outside of move decks a lot in those sort of control type lists where people are playing Sarah and stuff like that.
Well, just think about that stat line, right? 4/6 and it destroys a card. So 4/9 is the top, 4/10 is the top.
It's like White Queen.
Yeah. It was a 4/5, and then they boosted it to a 4/6, and I remember being like, "Welp, that card just became really good."
Right.
And people have complained. I've seen people complain like, "You can't bounce it back and use it again." Of course you can. That would be so. Bounce is already good with move. There's no way that would be
Stupid.
that would be. Like, dude, people would find ways to like Absorbing Man bounce this thing back or some I don't even know what, and then you're moving this thing all over and their board's done. And then people hate the game. Like, you can't have something too strong. And I think even just a 1-turn kill is fine.
For me, the way that I think I'm going to use 2099 is in my list with Kitty Pryde and Angela, because if I'm able to get Kitty down and I have that 110 final turn, I can play Iron Fist, 2099, and Kitty Pryde. And I've already done other things throughout the game where I've moved stuff and whatnot. So it's like, okay, they've committed their Devil Dino or whatever in that lane, their Dracula. I can take that out and I can add 10 power over here for the cost of 1. So thinking like, how can I fit as much power into the energy that I have on final turn? And that power obviously is also defensive. So you gain power by removing power. If I take 20 power away from my opponent, it's kind of like I just gained 20 power. So thinking of the power potential of that final play, moving that, and then being able to play your Kitty Pryde or whatever else final turn, or if you lock something down earlier on in the game, like there's going to be so many different opportunities for people to play final turn 2099, in my opinion, compared to like showing that hand, which obviously you could play Heimdall, you can move it left. Honestly, you could probably play Doctor Strange in certain scenarios to move it, but I think that there are going to be a lot of mind games around 2099 for sure.
It's exactly similar to Gambit. Like, you don't want to play it out too early, because if you play it out early, you're likely just knocking out a 2 or 3 drop. If you're able to hold it to a little bit later in the game, then you're going to hit a much more valuable target, right? I absolutely love what you just said there, because it goes to show you how much added versatility these season pass cards and these new cards that are coming out are going to give move as a whole. It never had these tools before. It just didn't. And now you have these unpredictable tools where, like, again, move used to be slide to the left. It used to be the cha-cha slide.
Right.
It's literally what it was. And now it's literally not that anymore. And there's so much more that move can do with all these extra tools. And I, for one, am excited to pilot it at 30% until I figure it out.
But we more than appreciate you, man, coming by. We know we're going to have you talk about the top 10 move cards over on Alex's side of the channel. Dude, this is your season. This is the move season. If you guys want to check out move guides, feel free to go check out the description down below. I'll have Molt's channel there. Great guy and a wizard of the move. And we're going to move on now, Alex, to Spider-Ham, which on the movie, what a fantastic character developed here. What do you think about this new card, guys? It is going to be a 1-cost, 1-power card, but you turn their biggest cost card into a pig, which means they keep their power, but they lose their ability. So Alex, Galactus, Doom, Gonzo. But then obviously you have some niche cases. What do you think of Spider-Ham?
Spider-Ham might be the most tilting turn 5 play in the history of Marvel Snap. That's what it is, basically. It's like, oh, you wanted to play Magneto? Well, I mean, it's still 612, actually. That's maybe not a good example. But I mean, it is a good example because it still does the thing, right? It's still a 612. But like Doctor Doom, huge nerf to Doctor Doom. Like massive nerf to Doctor Doom, right? And it's been a card that's been like so stable for so long. And Spider Ham just spider dumps on Doctor Doom. And it's a little sad because I love the card, but like, yeah, it gets hit pretty hard. It's cozy. I mean, hold on. Is there some synergy here? Is this the moment where Agatha gets a little bit of love?
I was just about to bring this up. I mean, you can't play it yourself, but Agatha decks that are already on the rise, dude. They're already better because of consistency. This and down is what all is getting the benefit, right? So if you look here, you've got Agatha that now it can at turn freaking 1 can be 614 that you just have in your hand. Awesome, dude. Like huge. Giganto, probably the least that's going to be out there. People are not going to just like start putting Giganto in their deck, but it does get some versatility. Destroyer is already very prevalent, which I think is a good counterbalance because this main use is like you only have to dedicate 1 power, 1 card to just screw the card everybody hates, and that's going to be Galactus. However, Galactus decks play obviously Destroyer. So now you've got this, did I destroy the right card? Did I pick the right card? I think that's vital into having some kind of balance. And you can bounce it back. You can bounce it back. But keep in mind, if they haven't played that, if they only have 1 6-cost card, it's just going to re-pig that card. So that won't work. If they have multiple and it's a ramp deck, that's when you get the value. Dude, I think this is such a great card to trade off the power, like I said with Molt, to trade off the power of Kitty Pryde, Sunspot, Nebula for just this effect. It's like what I wish Invisible Woman was. Like I wanted her to be like a 1/2, and then you get like a cool effect for 1 cost, and you don't worry about the power. I want more of those because you're not going to beat out these other 1-cost cards. They're so good at this point, dude. These 3 are the 1-cost cards to play mainly. Dude, I like what he's bringing to the game.
It is a truly fascinating card from a standpoint that like it has utility not just on turn 1, which it can have a utility on turn 1, but it's like it's later in the game where like, oh, they're playing in their combo, are they? Well, nope. I do see the problem with Galactus though. I know that I've seen some, scuttlebutt that it's a good counter to Galactus, but I'm concerned that Death might still kind of take the blow on a couple of those. Although I think Death's prevalence is coming down. And it also goes to show you that, again, we talk about this all the time, how the development team has like that added foresight that we lack. The nerf to something like Leech makes a little more sense now too, because this has almost a Leech-like effect, right? You still have the power, you still have the cost, but you don't have the ability. And that's essentially what Leech did, but en masse. So this card is like a single targeted Leech that targets the turn 5 and 6 cards, right? So I don't know. It's really interesting. I can see people really tilting. This is going to be popular on Reddit, I think.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think too, just combining it with like Iceman, like now at this point, like, I don't know about you, Galactus, like fine, dude, whatever, do it. But like if somehow Spider-Man was the biggest card they had, or Doc Ock, I would love for me to mess up their Doc Ock, man. Like that would help me with even my Galactus counters that I had in my deck ready to deal with the man himself, right? So it's another tool belt. But I do believe that, like, oh my god, I think that this card's going to be a problem at some point. And then the other new card we have coming out is Silk. Now, Silk is the last card, and I believe 2099 guys and Spider-Pig are pool 4, which is awesome. I was actually shocked that these were the 2 cards that hit that bill. Silk is the pool 5 card, which means not a lot of people are going to get this card. But in turn, I think she will be one of the better 2-cost drops in the game. She's got the Lizard effect. She does have some randomness to her, but man, it's so simplistic to play.
It's one of those cards that is going to really, really be impactful in a number of different ways. Like, first of all, obviously, Move loves it. Miles Morales loves it. It provides a lot of unpredictability for both yourself and your opponent. I think you can mess yourself up with it a little bit by accidentally saucing it into a lane where you're like, oh, I don't want it to be there. And now there's a 4-stack there. And I guess I have to Heimdall now. I do think that it's going to create an interesting scenario where, like, Move never really had a problem accessing Stormed or, Sanctorum style locations. Like, the restrictive locations, I don't think were that problematic for Move. I mean, they can be because you can't play into them like, Crimson Cosmos, stuff like that. It's just a straight up piss off. But I do think that that Silk is like, it creates an archetype that's fun to play. Like, how do I explain it? I'm not articulating it well, but like I feel like it fits exactly what you want Move to do. it creates this chaotic, fun nature where there's this card constantly moving. Then you have Ghost Spider moving as well, moving another card, sorry.
Like, if it does get to one of those locations, like Morag or whatever, like, it's done. It's not going to move again, most likely, because it's very hard for your opponent to play there. And at the same time, you can clog the other locations. You get to play something, and then it will move on a later basis. Even like Shuri, that'd be kind of fun. And it's going to naturally build with these other cards. Not to mention, like, I don't even know. My brain can't handle it at the moment, dude. But doing, like, Titania, and then following that with Silk, and then she goes up. And then if a person plays, then Silk moves and she goes down. There's a lot of crazy... I think like the min-maxers are going to make some crazy stuff happen out of Silk. And Sarah Miracle is going to be best friends with the card. So it is bound to be, dude, just a season to remember. I mean, this is going to be such a cool season, not only because of the new cards, but clearly because of Conquest. And it's coming out at the right time because Move is going to be awesome in Conquest. Play Lockdown if you don't like it. We're going to break down everything you need to know about Conquest and our thoughts on it next week as we prepare for its arrival. Dude, awesome episode today, Alex. Loved having you as always, guys. Now, it helps a ton if you leave a review for us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or down below. Let us know what guests you want next and what they know and what they can master. We love having people on here. And as always, guys, until the next one, happy snapping.